If you've ever gone outside and taken photos on your phone or camera and they didn't turn out exactly how you like, don't throw them away yet. You might just need to learn how to edit them. And today with this video, I'm gonna show you how to do exactly that with a convenient smartphone. For me recently, I've been really getting into flower photography, but these are general tools that can be applied to any photo, but today I'll be specifically showing this one. So this is the before picture. I would say it's not as saturated as I would like it to be. The contrast is a little bit too low, and I want to create some separation between the flowers and the green in the background. So this is going to be the final product. As you can see, the subject is pretty separated from the background, as the background is pretty blurry, but the subject in the center, the flowers, are definitely the focus of this photo. And also just a disclaimer, I'm not a colorist or professional photographer, but I think I have the basic idea of how to use Lightroom. And I think a lot of beginners that are getting to the hobby of photography and editing photos could definitely benefit from this video. So let's go. All right, now that we have Lightroom open, I selected the photo that we're gonna be editing today. We're gonna select the edit tab. On the bottom, as you can see, it says edit. First, we're gonna be talking about light. Of course, light is a very important subject when editing photos. So as you can see, we have the exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, whites, blacks. There's a lot of stuff to look here. I would say most of the stuff is pretty subjective, so I'm gonna show you how I like to do it. But keep in mind, you don't have to follow exactly the rules that I do. I would say try to play around with it and try to create your own style. So for the exposure, let me see. It already looks pretty bright, so I don't actually like how the exposure looks right now. I did also mention in the photo that I wish the contrast was a little higher. I'm definitely gonna up that, darkening the shadows. Now for the highlights, it's a little too bright. Let me put it down a tiny bit. Same with the shadows. The whites look pretty good to me, but I think for this one, I kind of want to emphasize the background, how dark it is, so that I can separate the subject. Now for the blacks, the background is a little dark, so I do want to be able to see that. So let me brighten that up a little bit. Another important thing that I personally like to use is the curve. So I'm going to tap on the curve, and I personally like to make 3 points. On the bottom here, middle, and top. Okay, something that I see a lot of professional photographers do when using Lightroom Mobile is that on the bottom of the curve right here, they raise it up just a little bit. As you can see, it definitely lessens the contrast of the photo. And I think if you do it like this, it can look very cheap looking, but if you add just a little bit, it looks pretty nice in my opinion. Okay, I'm gonna just play around and see what I want to do with this photo. So I feel as though if I take the second to last one and lower it down, definitely separates the subject from the background a little more, and I personally like that. Okay, so the middle one here, if I bring it down, the pink gets a little more saturated, and I like that. As you can see, if I pull it up, it gets pretty overexposed, so I really want to avoid that. So I'm gonna pull that down. I think that looks about good. See on the one on the right, what should I do with it? Kind of affecting the pinks as well. I think for now I'm just gonna keep it as it is. So I'm gonna keep that little S looking curve. Let's move on to color. So for me, actually, I don't really touch the tint, vibrance, or saturation of this, because on this main tab, if you touch any of those, it's gonna affect the entire photo. While for us, we wanna affect certain colors, not just the entire picture. So I'm gonna hold off on touching that. But something that I will touch is the temperature. So as you can see on this temperature bar, it goes to blue on the left, yellow on the right. So it can make the photo very cold, or it can make it very warm. Of course, if you do too much of each, it looks kind of silly. There might be some situations where it is good to go too crazy on the blue, go too crazy on the yellow, but for this photo, I want to make it just a little bit yellow or orange to give it that kind of afternoon sunset kind of look. Since we just skipped the tint, vibrance, saturation, we're going to go here to the color mix. Now this is where it's going to get pretty interesting. As we look at this photo, I would say the main colors of this are the pink that's on the flowers, the yellow that's on the bulbs, and the background that's green. So I primarily want to, fix these main 3. So first, let's go over to the pink, okay? So I'm just gonna mess around with this, see what I like, see what I don't. How should I change the hue? Actually want to make the hue a little bit lower, but for the saturation, I'll put that up. For that nice pink color to really pop. For me, I'm going to keep it like that. All right, let's move on to the yellow, see what we can do with that. I actually want the stems of the flower to not be too green so that we can separate the really, really green background to the less green subject. Okay, now I'm gonna play around the saturation bar. Okay, now let's go over to the green. Now this one's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna play around with this. Wow, now I think the photo is really coming to life. Now, as I'm editing the green color, this is just preference. Some people like it really, really saturated, that deep, deep green, while others think it's too much. Just do whatever you think to your preference. Let me play around with it right now and see what I like. See, as I increase the hue, it becomes a really, really dark green. I personally don't like that as it looks pretty unrealistic, so I'm definitely gonna drag the hue down a little bit. Now, we're gonna go to the effects tab. Now this is where we're gonna separate the background from the subject, as I was talking about earlier. We're gonna go to vignette, and as you can see, as I increase it to the left, that vignetting on the corners appears, and it really helps to separate the subject from the background. We're gonna go to effects and go to texture, clarity, dehaze. Okay, now we're going to texture, clarity, and dehaze. But for me personally, I think that a lot of photos have a lot of detail in them, and that's great, but I actually like to decrease the texture and decrease the clarity, as I think it's just more visually appealing. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm on texture, I'm gonna decrease that here. Gives it a more dreamy kind of look. I do the same with clarity. And I like that. Say if I were to put the texture up, the clarity up a little bit. Now there's a lot of detail, right? But I like that dreamy look, as I said earlier, so I'm gonna put the texture and clarity down. Here's grain. You can add grain if you want. It's just a stylistic choice. You can make it look more film-like, but for me, I think I'm gonna skip off the grain for this photo. All right, I am pretty satisfied. I like how blurry the background is, how you can see the subject. All right, I just finished editing the photo, and I can say I definitely like it a lot more than what I started with. If I hold onto the screen in Lightroom, it shows me the before. As you can see, it's not very saturated. The background is separated slightly, but there could have been more done to that, and the colors could have popped a lot better. But afterwards, especially with the vignette, I think it really showcases the main subject in the center, and I like that kind of dreamy look that we got by minimizing the clarity and the texture. All right, everybody, that's how I personally edit photos in Lightroom Mobile completely for free. If you got any enjoyment or information from this video, please make sure you click the like button and subscribe, especially since I'll be creating a lot of photography, videography, tech, lifestyle content in the future. Again, thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you next week. Peace.